An Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra with a 3.1 liter engine in it. I'm about to put the head bolts on. I've already set the head gasket in and the head's on top of it. You can see that I've got the rocker arms removed from the head because of how much easier it is to torque the bolts properly. I've set them up here on the underneath the hood in order, and with them removed, I would just want to make sure that I get them back in the same place. It's inside these rocker arms, which I'll be dealing with a little later, is a nut, and then the washer is a little different. You can kind of see that it's rounded and beveled. The inside of the rocker arm, we'll want to make sure that we oil that up real good, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I've already torqued the other side of the other head, so I'm working on the left side right now. Remember that the front of the engine is that side over there, and then this would be the left, and that's the right, because of the way the engine has been turned in to the vehicle. Because it's front wheel drive, the rear of the engine hooks up to the transmission. Alright, so here's the head bolts. I stuck them all in a cardboard box to make sure that they go back in order. Not that it's really important that they go back in order, but every now and then you'll have bolts that are a little bit different length or something like that, depending on your engine. This one doesn't. There's only one different bolt, and it's this one right here. It's got threads inside the head of it that this little Torx bolt goes onto. This bolt right here holds the compressor bracket, and it's just one of the bolts that holds it on. I think that's what it's for. The compressor bracket also holds the engine torque strut. I think it's what it's called. In a previous video I called it a bung, knowing that it wasn't, but I didn't remember exactly what it is. But I think it's the torque strut that bracket also holds on. Okay, so I've cleaned these thread bolts, or head bolts, off using a wire wheel. You just want to make sure that they're nice and clean, and there's not really any damaged threads. You can replace the bolts and it's not a problem, but these, the factory manual didn't say that they needed to be replaced, and so I'm not going to replace them. It does say to use thread sealant, which the sealant it says to use, it gives a part number for, and basically it's just this high temperature thread sealant by Permatex. It's not a thread locking compound, but rather just a sealant kind of similar to Teflon. You can see some of the back stuff here, but anyway, you just put a little bit of that on there and on the bolts and stick them in there. So I'll do that right now. There's one bolt done, and you can see that's just kind of a white compound, and now I have 8 more to do. Okay, on this head there are 8 bolts, and the number 1 bolt, well, let's see, I've got the service manual right here. There's the tightening sequence, if it'll focus. And actually I was wrong, but that's okay. So this is actually the number 1 bolt, and but because I didn't take it from that position, from the box, that's where I want to stick it in there for a second. I just took it out of the box. I'm putting it in by hand to make sure it doesn't cross thread. You certainly don't want that. You can, once you get it started, take a power tool and just run it until the head of the bolt just barely contacts the surface of the head. You don't want to actually start tightening it. All you're doing is running it down. All the tightening on a head should be done by hand. You don't ever want to use a power tool for it unless for some reason it's that type of head, which I have never heard of. So there's the first bolt, and yeah, I'll show you the tightening sequence as we go.